Hey guys, welcome back to Wrestle News 365. Hope everyone is doing very well, staying safe and staying indoors. So breaking news, this has only just dropped in the last 5 minutes or so, so I wanted to give my immediate reaction as the news is breaking. WWE just announced on their website, on their social media, that effective today, Friday, April 10, 2020, WWE and The Revival have agreed on their immediate release from WWE. The quote is just that, followed by, "We wish them well, all the best in their future endeavours," the classic WWE release line. So yes, Scott Dawson and Dash Wilder are officially out of the WWE. They are out of their WWE contracts. Now, this is quite surprising, to be honest, because obviously it's not so much surprising that the Revival are going to leave WWE. I think as time has gone on the last few months, it's become more and more apparent that that was going to happen. Scott Dawson and Dash Wilder, their contracts have always been up around this point, but I think the surprising element to all of this is, to me, that WWE has gone and granted their release. I would have assumed, as was the case with Jon Moxley and other WWE talent like Matt Hardy and Brody Lee, even though Brody Lee was technically released, that they would just let them see out their contract, and therefore that would mean that they could jump immediately to AEW, to New Japan, wherever they want. Them granting the Revival's release says to me that there is now going to be a 90-day non-compete clause, which effectively delays the Revival from their debut in AEW. Now, to sort of backtrack on all of this, because this is a bit scatterbrain at the moment. So, we've known for about the last year or so that the Revival's contract was coming up. The reported time in which Scott Dawson and Dash Wilder's contract was coming up was said to be just after WrestleMania 36. Of course, WrestleMania 36 is now come and gone. I believe a couple of weeks ago, Scott Dawson even released a tweet or posted a tweet saying, "I'm finally free." If you look on their Twitter account, they just use their actual real names, not their Scott Dawson and Dash Wilder sort of name, as their name for their Twitter account. And it was thought more and more likely over the last year that the Revival were going to leave WWE. We'd heard several reports that WWE had offered them more and more money continuously. They were constantly negotiating with them, offering them more money to stay, offering them more money to stay with WWE and not go anywhere else. But the reports that we were hearing and the reports that coming out of these negotiations were with the Revival that it wasn't really about the money so much. It was more about the creative and the positioning of not just necessarily them, but the positioning of tag team wrestling in the WWE. And look, I'm a huge fan of tag team wrestling. I'm a huge advocate of tag team wrestling. It can be such a benefit to the card and a benefit to the show. But historically, you have to look at it from a WWE point of view. Tag team wrestling has never been the forefront of Vince McMahon's plans in WWE. It just hasn't. Yes, it has peaks and troughs in WWE, and the reason it has peaks and troughs in WWE is mainly because Vince McMahon loses interest in tag team wrestling. Sometimes he's into it, sometimes he isn't. But if you look at a company like AEW or New Japan, where tag team wrestling is treated seriously and it can be the main event, it's obvious to me why the Revival would want to leave WWE. Now, as I mentioned, Scott Dawson's contract was due to expire any time now, if not it already has expired, but Dash Wilder's contract was extended a little bit, not long, maybe about 8 or 10 weeks or so, due to previous injuries he sustained under his WWE contract. Now, I believe those previous injuries, was it a broken jaw he sustained in about 2017, around that period of time, and he was out for a couple of months, so I think it was a couple of months added on to his contract. But if you look at it, if that's 3 months, and Dash Wilder's contract was just about to expire now, 3 months is about 90 days. So I would suspect, and this is pure speculation from my point, I don't have any insider info to this one, but I would suspect that Scott Dawson's contract has already expired, whereas Dash Wilder's contract was originally due to expire now, but they added on 90 days due to the injury. So if they do release Dash Wilder now, the 90-day non-compete clause expires at the same time his WWE contract would have expired due to the injuries, because that's the same thing they did with Brody Lee. You remember Brody Lee was actually officially released from WWE at the end of last year. With the 90-day non-compete clause, it meant that he couldn't go anywhere on television until March of 2020. And he spoke about this at length on the Talk Is Jericho interview, where he basically said that, yes, eventually they did grant him his release, but it was due at the same time he would have been able to go anywhere else anyway. So it's kind of just a last sort of FU, I guess, to whoever has decided to leave WWE. And it looks like this is the same situation for the Revival here. So the Revival are gone. And some people speculated over the last year when we kept hearing these reports that, the Revival are still negotiating with WWE. WWE have offered them more and more money. Some people said, I think eventually at the final hour they'll stay. And that just never seemed like it was going to happen to me. It always felt during this period of time that the Revival were going to leave WWE, because I think they really do care about the art form of tag team wrestling. And let's be honest, they've done it all in WWE. They literally have done it all in WWE. They've won the Raw tag team titles, the SmackDown tag team titles, the NXT tag team titles. They're the only tag team to do that, by the way, in the current modern day WWE, and the only team ever to win the SmackDown, Raw, and NXT tag team titles. I believe they weren't they the first team to become 2-time NXT tag team champions? They've done it all in WWE, and yet they've been greatly underutilized. How many times have we seen them over the last few years been used as heaters for someone? I enjoyed the stable they had with Randy Orton. I thought that should have carried on, but they broke that up quickly. We've seen them be lackeys for King Corbin, and they even joked about it on social media when they said, who else are we going to be with? Who else are we going to be with? Why can't they be with the Revival? And they were used as comedy characters toward the end of their run and at the start of this year, which isn't shocking. Consider if you think they're in the last year of their contract, they're not exactly going to be booked strong on the way out. So to me, like I said, it's not a surprise. I'm surprised that they've done this release, because we know that WWE isn't really releasing anyone nowadays, with AEW being such a financially viable option to a lot of talent. WWE aren't really releasing anyone. They're either letting them see their contracts out, or they're offering them a lot of money to stay at home. Brody Lee talked about it. He said, they offered me so much money to stay at home. Matt Hardy said the same thing. They offered me so much money to stay at home. Why? Because it's the only way that they can keep their hands on everything. If you can keep them under contract at home, that guarantees they aren't going to go somewhere else and create compelling content that might take eyes away from the product. And this is at a period of time where less and less people are watching WWE than ever before. They can't afford to lose any more eyeballs on the product than what they have at the moment. So, look, am I saying the Revival are going to go to AEW and completely move the needle to the point where AEW is going to be drawing over 1 million viewers or over 2 million viewers every week? Probably not. But it's another valuable commodity they can add to their roster. So, let's touch on AEW, because that seems like the logical place for them to go. And I know AEW doesn't want to be doing the same mistakes that we've seen the likes of WCW and TNA do, whereby whoever is released from WWE has to go straight into their roster, because you don't want to be seen as WWE-like. You certainly don't want to be seen as that. But with the likes of Brody Lee and with the likes of Matt Hardy and now with the Revival, these are guys you want to add to your roster. This isn't a type of situation whereby someone's getting released and you're going, maybe, I don't want to throw them under the bus here, but you think of like the Ascension. When they got released, you didn't see loads of people going, they need to go to AEW. That was kind of one where I think AEW look at them and go, we can maybe make a pass at this one. I don't think we need them to. They're not sure. I'm not sure what they necessarily add or what we don't have already on the roster. You look at the Revival, they're a classic, old school throwback wrestling tag team, which you don't have in AEW at the moment. You don't. You have the Lucha Brothers and the Young Bucks and whoever, who are those high-flying, great spots, over-the-top spots, matches, and they are great to watch, and they're entertaining, but you don't really have that ground and pound classic tag team style that the Revival, hence having the name, can pull off and pulled off so well, especially in the likes of NXT. And I really do think, look, we had the last AEW pay-per-view Revolution, the tag team title match between the Bucks and between Omega and Hangman was considered by Dave Meltzer to be like a 6-star match or whatever, and it got universally acclaimed and critically acclaimed. And by far, it was one of the best matches on the show, maybe the best match on the show, one of the best matches in AEW's short history for sure. And I think the Revival was looking at that and thinking, we can be a part of that, we can do that. And them going to AEW not only seems like a formality at this point, but it also opens up a lot of fascinating matches for them to have. I'm fascinated to see a Revival versus the Young Bucks match. I'm fascinated to see a Revival versus, if they're still a tag team at this point, Omega and Hangman. Revival versus the Lucha Brothers, Revival versus SCU, Jurassic Express, whoever. Those matches, to me, Private Party is another one, are just fascinating, and I'm really interested to see what they do at that point. And also as well, it opens up, I guess, opportunities for them to do it if they wanted to. They wanted to go to New Japan. I'm sure they would fit in really well in New Japan. Obviously, they don't have the size of a Bruiser Brody and Stan Hansen or anything like that, but they're a bit of a throwback tag team that could fit in perfectly in New Japan, and I think that some of their matches over there would be fascinating to see as well. GOD versus the Revival would be interesting to see, certainly. And in terms of the name, of course, obviously they're not going to use the name The Revival in AEW or New Japan or wherever they go. It's looking more and more likely that they are going to use the name #FTR. They've trademarked that last year, I believe, or was it late last year or earlier this year? They trademarked that, so they own that name. They also own the rights to the name Shatter Machine, which is, of course, their finishing maneuver. I don't think they'll be called Shatter Machine, but I think they'll use that as their finishing name still going forward, which is great because it's a great finishing name and it's a great move. So like I said, just immediate reaction is I'm surprised WWE have announced the full release. Well, I'm surprised and I'm not surprised. It seems quite petty, but it seems like a very WWE thing to do when it comes to talents that's decided, look, you can offer me as much money as you want. I'm not going to sign, and I'm out of the door. I'm gone. Criminally underutilized in WWE, even with all the achievements that they have done in WWE. Like I said, they've done it all, and yet they've still been criminally underutilized, which says a lot about their talent and their potential as a tag team. They're a true tag team, you know, they're better off together. They're a bit like the Dudley Boys to me, and I know, obviously, Bully Ray had a great singles career post Team 3D or the Dudley Boys or whatever, but they're a true tag team in the sense of, I think they wouldn't be anything in singles competitors, but together they're just magic. And that's a true old school tag team. So like I said, surprised that WWE have actually announced a release. Not surprised that the Revival are leaving. To me, it looks a bit like the Brody Lee situation with Dash Wilder in the sense his contract would have expired in 3 months' time. They've released him now, and his non-compete clause expires in the 3 months' time anyway. I wouldn't be surprised if Scott Dawson is already gone, or if he had, I don't know, like a day left. I wouldn't even put it past him if Scott Dawson had like a couple of days left on his contract and they released him to add on 3 months to his non-compete clause or anything like that. I wouldn't put it past WWE either, so to do something like that. You got to remember, this is the same company that fired one of their top superstars on his wedding day and sent that file via FedEx in the mail. So, you know, don't put anything past WWE when it comes to petty contract exits from the company. Don't put anything past them. But I'm excited for the future for the Revival. Interested to see where they go. Again, looking more and more likely that they'll go to AEW. But look, if they do go to AEW, talk about all the tag team matches that can potentially open for them in the future. Super exciting stuff. And look, how many years now has Cody Rhodes on Being the Elite said F the Revival, F the Revival? That's where the FTR, #FTR phrase comes from. So Just imagine that. We might actually see Cody Rhodes say it on pay-per-view, on television, to the Revival's face. How exciting is that? So let me know what you think in the comment section below. What do you think about the Revival being released effectively today from their WWE contracts? Let me know in the comment section below. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. You can do that by clicking the bottom right-hand corner or clicking the subscribe button, or if you wait a couple of extra seconds, you'll be able to click it at the end of the video along with another video to watch. But the Revival are gone. Where will they go next? Thank you very much for watching, listening, streaming, or however you've come across this video today, and I'll speak with you again very, very soon. Hey guys, thank you for watching, listening, streaming, or however you come across this video today. Be sure to click on the video on the right there to watch our next video, or click the bottom there to subscribe, or the bottom right hand corner. Thank you very much, and I'll speak to you again very soon.